Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm not talking about makeup or showing you a new cosplay. I am actually going to be talking on a subject that really bothered me. Whereas we've reached a really interesting point in our society where we have this really strong call-out culture. We have a lot of movements that are bringing positivity to the world, body positive movements and trying to include everyone and be wonderful. And then we have this opposite side where it's really cool to just try to be as controversial as possible. And I feel like I hate that. So last week, I'm late on doing this video, but I've wanted to do it for a long time. It's Thanksgiving Day today, and I just put on some makeup to go see my family, but I wanted to make this video first, and I can edit it later and put it up soon. But, Bill Maher made some comments in the wake of Stan Lee's death, and I want to talk about those. Okay. So, firstly, I'd like to say, no matter the person, I think it is extremely tasteless to slam and make awful comments and I'm gonna say it, be a fucking asshole the day after someone dies. Within the week someone dies. Like, how much of a miserable person do you have to be to rip apart the person who died? And Bill Maher made this comment like, oh, it's nothing against Stan Lee. No, but I can't believe people are so upset. Well, I'm sorry that this isn't something that you're passionate about. I'm sorry that you are so miserable in your own life that you have to tear apart other people who are passionate about other human beings. And I really want to stay away from this getting super political, because I know there was some political comments that were tied into it, and I don't want to talk about that today. I want to talk about how we are losing empathy as humans, and it's cool. There's nothing cool about making fun of people that are grieving and hurting and in pain. And I think that no one has a place telling people how to grieve or how to feel. I will be the first to admit that I can be a total troll, especially when it comes to certain topics. But I can easily say I've never been like, wow, look at you, you're so stupid because you're grieving someone who died. I think that it's ridiculous. I think that he doesn't have a place speaking upon what kind of impact Stan Lee made when he self-admittedly doesn't know anything about Marvel Comics and what it's done for the world as a whole. And to say it, I think it's extremely ignorant and really coming from a place of being extremely ill-informed about the world around you if you think that pop culture doesn't affect everyone and everything. And not just here in America, but everywhere. The two words that are most internationally recognized that you can say in almost any country and they will know what you're saying is Coca-Cola and Mickey Mouse. So if that doesn't speak on how pop culture and advertising and all of that affects the rest of the world, then you are speaking from a spot of misinformation, and you have not been paying attention to the world around you at all. Stan Lee took Marvel Comics and tried to make it impact people in a way that would help the world be more inclusive to everyone so that no one would feel left out. In Stan's soapbox, he would stand up and talk about, you know, being inclusive and fighting racism and, you know, fighting oppression, and that we should treat each other like brothers and sisters. And I know that brothers and sisters will bicker, but he's correct. We are all human, and we should be good to each other. And I know that I am flawed in that. I know that I'm not perfect. I know that I have made some mistakes. But I try to be a really good person. And I think that Bill Maher could learn a lot from Stan Lee about being a better person. I have a friend who's an actor, and one of the most interesting conversations I ever had with him was when he was talking about how comedy has always been a way to talk about politics or to criticize a government without just like rah, 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 at the camera or at the audience or at the person that you're fighting with, and that how gestures were used in a king's court at some point in history to be able to talk or criticize the king without just, you know, getting sent to execution for treason or blasphemy, but they used comedy in order to get that message across. And I feel like you can use so much of pop culture to get a message across without being completely in somebody's face. And I feel like Stan Lee and Marvel Comics did that for us. And they did that through entertainment. And they were really, really ahead of their time. And I just don't know. I'm really disappointed. I'm really disappointed that some people think that it's funny and it's a joke and they don't understand. You know, and he made a comment. I'm gonna just pull up the video and play it. Let's see here. This was, he just recently this week doubled down on what he was saying.
Bill, I gotta bring this up. And you got in a little controversy over this. When Stan Lee died, you weren't criticizing him. You were criticizing the Marvel, the comic book concept, right?
Of course.
Why did people get mad at you?
First of all, I just found out about this. I'm so
Just found out that people got mad?
Yeah. I'm so glad that I don't follow social media like that. Every stupid thing
They had to
people
tell me today about it.
lose their shit about. Yes. But talk about making my point for me. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't know very much about Stan Lee, and it certainly wasn't a swipe at Stan Lee. It was
I still liked him. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, of course, fine. I'm agnostic on Stan Lee. I don't read comic books. I didn't even read them when I was a child. What I was saying is a culture that thinks that comic books and comic book movies are profound meditations on the human condition is a dumb fucking culture. And for people to like get mad at that just proves my point.
We're just a dumb fucking culture, according to him. Which is, I mean, have your opinions, but let's bring up the original tweets too. Why not? Let's go for it. All right, so I'm gonna read this out loud. On Real Time with Bill Maher, his blog, he wrote, "Now I have nothing against comic books. I read them now and then when I was a kid and I was all out of Hardy Boys. But the assumption that everyone had back then, both the adults and the kids, was that comics were for kids, and when you grew up, you moved on to big boy books without the pictures." He went on to say that 20 years ago, adults didn't give up kids' stuff, and says that they had pretended that comic books were sophisticated literature. And now when adults are forced to do grown-up things like buy auto insurance, they call it adulting and act like it's some giant struggle. I feel like this just sounds like a miserable person who's miserable with their life. I'm sorry that I don't enjoy paying my auto insurance, and I rather read a comic book. I can do both and be an adult and be well informed, and I can I could be a rocket scientist or a brain surgeon and still think that Captain America is the shit. You don't have to choose. You don't have to be this black and white person who puts on a suit and turns their nose up at other people in the world because they're not as good as you. I don't have to be a political scientist to have opinions either. And just because I didn't go to a traditional college doesn't mean I'm dumber than you. It just means that I have different passions and chose a different path in life. And I think it's important to be well informed. I think it's important to pay attention to the world around you. I think it's important to allow yourself to have a good education and to be exposed to the world. I want to travel more because I want to be exposed to more of the world. I think all of those things are important. But you don't have to give up the things that you loved as a child just because it's the adult thing to do. Maybe it wasn't some big college thesis paper. Maybe it didn't have a bunch of statistics and scientific breakdowns and studies done about it, but Stan Lee's soapbox pieces and the legacy that he left behind trying to make the world better with Marvel Comics made a difference, because how we raise our children and the messages that we give to them while they are still these tiny little sponges soaking up information is important. And if I, as an adult, indulge in things that are nostalgic for me and I enjoy them through my adulthood, it doesn't make me less of a person either. I just don't understand how you could shit on someone right after they die for trying to make the world a better place. When Stan Lee first started writing comics, he talked about, I was embarrassed to say that I was a comic book writer, and now I can say it with pride. He was proud of who he was and what he did. And frankly, Bill Maher, we don't really give a flying fuck about your commentary or how big of a deal you are or how miserable of a person you are that you have to sit here and shit on everyone else and you think that you're a better person because you don't participate in fandoms. But I don't know. Keep drinking that shitty overpriced liquor and pretending like it's great, or buying the really expensive suit because it makes you look smarter, or whatever you think is going to make your life better, until you can find something that makes you truly happy. I wish you the best in your life endeavors, sir. And I want you to know that plenty of us have found plenty of happiness indulging ourselves in our nostalgia. And we have found a community that accepts us for the weirdos that we are. And you can tell us we're stupid all day long and that we aren't as cool as you. But we've been being told that our whole lives by every, schoolyard bully that was probably a lot like you. We don't need your approval. We certainly don't need your commentary. And you certainly no longer have any respect for me at all if you are going to be so tactless and so tasteless in how you address other human beings in the wake of their death, nonetheless. To all of you out there that are still grieving, know that you have a community, that you have a place, that you fit in, that you are accepted, and that no pompous celebrity TV host, comedian, commentator, whatever the hell he wants to call himself, can take that away from you. And even though Stanley is gone, his legacy will live on forever. And we will continue to embrace the morals and the stories and the ideas that Stanley held for making our world a better place. And that's all I have. That's all I have today. Today's just talk. And you can have whatever opinions you have on me. I obviously have made some very strong comments on a certain person that made me angry. And like I said, I'm working on trying to be a better person, but you win some, you lose some.